Hi, I'm Steel22, you can call me Steel, and welcome to my full completion and exploration guide for Act 6, Chapter 1, Quest 1, Tentative Steps, the first video in a series of 24 guides for Act 6. In this video, I'll be showing you how to work through every single path in this quest, as well as how to counter the global node, No Retreat, as well as the boss, Sabretooth. To make this guide easier for you to navigate, I've attached timestamps in the description below, as well as a link to my introductory video where I explain how these guides work. First, let's look at the global. The global is No Retreat. When the attacker dashes back, they get a degen timer for 1.2 seconds. Dashing back again while the degen timer is active causes a passive degen, dealing 200% of the defender's attack over 5 seconds. So how do we deal with this? Well, let's discuss the counters. One way is to Quake it. Quake's natural parry style, as well as her heavy only style, can completely bypass No Retreat, since she doesn't have to dash back at all. Don't play her deck style because that will trigger No Retreat and you will degenerate. But playing parry style is very safe, and against stun immunity, heavy only works well. Shout out to Rahul Mehta from my Discord for this top tier Quake gameplay. Another option is to Ghost it. Similar to Quake, Ghost's natural playstyle also counters No Retreat, since it involves dashing back once into phase, taking a hit into phase, and then retaliating for a combo or a special attack. Since the degen from No Retreat is passive, it always triggers Hulk Ragnarok's face me ability, which means Hulk will always regenerate 70% of the damage he would be taking, which can be up to 85% with 3 points in the recovery mastery. Spider-Ham can also reduce the potency of the No Retreat degen, and when he has at least 7 Spider Nonsense charges, he's fully resistant to all the damage. When he gets up to 10, he can use a heavy attack to remove 2 to get down to 8 again. This means he can keep an indefinite uptime on his full degen resistance. Shout out to Carl Popper from my Discord for this top tier Spider-Ham gameplay. Another way to make life easier for you in this chapter is to use champs that can rely on or can incorporate a parry heavy playstyle, since it involves them dashing back once and then waiting for the opponent to hit into them. While this is a slower way to play, it can be very effective for certain champions, such as Archangel, Mr. Fantastic, Captain America Infinity War, Warlock, Dr. Octopus, Human Torch against Mystics or champions like Magneto with energy attacks. Sentinel, especially when he's at max analysis. Havoc. Omega Red. Colossus. Hyperion. As well as a plethora of other champions that I didn't record gameplay for, such as Red Guardian, Sunspot, Domino with her trinity of Red Hulk and Massacre, Longshot, Cable as a horseman, Hulkbuster, Professor X, and even Spider-Man Symbiote. Another option is to use champions that have access to a general ability accuracy reduction, which reduces the chance of the initial no retreat timer triggering on you. You can achieve this with champions like Archangel through his neurotoxins, or Medusa through her armor shattered against robots, as well as several other champions. Unfortunately, only general ability accuracy reduction works. Champions with offensive ability accuracy reduction, such as Warlock, they won't work here for no retreat. And similarly, champions with defensive ability accuracy reduction like Gwenpool. If you're unsure what type your champion has, check their ability page, because it will specify whether their ability accuracy reduction is offensive or defensive. If it doesn't specify, that means it's general. There are also other tips I have that can make your life easier using any champ in this chapter. One tip I have is to idle when baiting a special attack, so that you can trigger the initial timer when the opponent throws their special attack instead of before. This means you can take less block damage. Another tip is against champs with multiple hits in their heavy. Punishing the first one means you don't have to trigger no retreat, dexing all of the heavy. If you don't like idling to bait the special attack, you can also do dexes, but use them sparingly, as doing it too quickly will trigger no retreat. If you're still having trouble with it, don't stress. This is meant to be a hard global node. In my opinion, this is the hardest global in 6.1, and it will take some time getting used to. If you're struggling, take some time to practice and you'll find yourself getting better at it every time you do it. Now let's look at each individual path, starting with Path A, which is the easy path that I'd recommend for completion. You can find it in the top right corner of the map, starting with Agent Venom and ending with Gambit. You can pretty much use anyone for this guy, however try to avoid champs with lots of fury buffs, as that will give him extra power. Try to bait heavies through your block for your openings and punish the first hit of his heavy rather than avoiding both and triggering no retreat. Red Skull has the Tyranny node, which means only villain champs gain power in this fight. I'd recommend bringing your strongest villain for him, and remember to not hit into his block, as that will drain your power and deal you damage. Bait the special one, and don't be afraid to block some of it, because it won't do much damage. Also be extra careful of the aspect of death, which is the grey icon he gets when he throws his special attacks. If he hits you while that's active, you'll instantly die. This is a very simple fight for anyone. Just remember to keep regularly hitting him to prevent his armor building up through aggression armor. His special one is a projectile, so even though the unblockable text shows up, you can safely block it if you need to. Be aware of the power gain he gets at 15% health, and don't be afraid to block the special 2 if you have to. The maximum overdrive node states that Punisher will gain 25% of his max power when his battery reaches an interval of 25. However, since his buff, I don't believe that this node is working properly, as he doesn't gain the power like he used to. Like the Agent Venom fight, try to avoid using champs with multiple fury buffs, as that will give Punisher double attack and extra power gain. I'd recommend bringing someone with strong block proficiency, so that his special attacks don't chip you down too much. Nebula has double power gain for the entire fight, so I'd recommend bringing a decent power control champ if you can. If you can't, it's not the end of the world, but you'll just have to bait more special attacks. If you get clipped by her special attacks, she'll also drain your power. The only node worth noting here for Gambit is the aggression regeneration node. If you don't hit into him regularly enough, he'll start gaining passive regeneration stacks that will start healing him exponentially, so use someone that can consistently keep that at bay. His special 2 can be avoided without triggering no retreat, however I'd suggest blocking the second hit. Use this same strategy to block the second hit of the special 1 too. Congratulations, you've gotten through Path A. Now Path B, which you can also find in the top right hand corner of the map, starting with Agent Venom and ending with the Hood. We already covered the Agent Venom fight during Path A, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. The redoubled determination node gives Iron Man Infinity War 20% more power gain per debuff, as well as 65% attack. So avoid using chance with lots of debuffs, as that will make this fight very difficult. Instead, use someone that doesn't rely on debuffs, baiting special attacks while Osculate is in its Fury phase, and playing very defensive during the armor phase. If he throws his heavy attack, punish the first hit instead of dashing back multiple times and triggering no retreat. At 15%, he'll start passively gaining power, but it isn't hard to manage, so hit him when his passive armor drops off. You'll need to bring someone that can handle bleed for this fight, due to biohazard. Ideally, bring a champ that can handle the bleed, as well as apply some sort of damage over time effect to get around safeguard. Bait the special 1, and you'll need to block either the first hit or the second hit to avoid no retreat. Green Goblin will start the fight with 2 bars of power, so be very prepared when you enter the fight, ready to bait his special 2. When he eventually throws it, you'll need to block some of it to avoid triggering no retreat. Don't use chance with damage over time effects for this fight, as that will give him triple power gain. This fight is fairly straightforward, anyone works here. Just be mindful of how much you bait his special 1, as that can chip you down. As long as you don't trigger no retreat, you'll sail through unharmed. This fight is also pretty simple, provided you're comfortable enough with managing Bane. His special 1 is long, so try to bait that soon after you transfer Bane. Congratulations, you've beaten Path B. Now for Path C, which you can find in the bottom right hand corner of the map, starting with Elektra and ending with Ghost Rider. The trickiest part about this fight is Elektra's special 1, since the first hit is unblockable and you can very easily get clipped by it if you're not careful. The other 2 hits are projectiles, so they can be safely blocked. She will also hit you with guaranteed crits if you're below 50% health. Dr. Octopus has full stun immunity, So you'll need to find your openings by either baiting his heavy, which can safely be avoided with one dash back, or by intercepting him. Stick to baiting his special 1, as the block damage from the special 2 will add up. Also, don't play too slow against him or he'll start exponentially healing through aggression regeneration. Night Thrasher is a very simple fight. Just be careful about when you dash back during his special attacks, as both have multiple components to them. Don't block the final hit of his special 1, as that will place an Incinerate, Shock and Disorient debuff on you. In my opinion, this is the toughest fight in this quest. Each debuff gives Kingpin lots of attack, as well as an additional 25% combat power rate, 5% from his abilities, and 20% from Redoubled Determination. Only a few champs do really well here, those being Dr. Doom, Quake, Ghost, Corvus Glaive, and Omega Red. If you don't have those champs, this fight is still doable, but it requires very careful play. Use the Oscillate node to your advantage, by baiting special attacks during the Fury phase and idling during the Armor phase. Also, be aware that if you activate his Overpower Rage, which he gets from having 8 debuffs, then his special 1 will be unblockable. Don't bait the special 2 unless you have a guaranteed way to either nullify or stagger the Unstoppable buff that he gets, as the Unstoppable buff lasts for a very long time. In this fight, you'll have a permanent Power Sting passive on you, which means you can never throw a special attack. His special 1 is unblockable, so when baiting it, perform a 4-hit combo and then wait for him to throw the special 1 before dashing back. If you can, push to the special 2, since avoiding the special 1 without triggering a retreat can be tricky. Ghost Rider is a simple fight. The only thing to be mindful of is Aspect of Evolution, which will increase his stats by 5% every time he gets a bar of power, so use someone that can get him down quickly. Congratulations, you've beaten Path C. Now for Path D, which you can also find in the bottom right hand corner of the map, starting at Elektra and ending with Ghost. We already covered the Elektra fight during Path C, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. The Oppressive Curse node means Morningstar will gain a soul charge every time she gets blocked, including when she's parried. Use someone with energy or non-contact attacks like Human Torch, or someone that can handle her bleed. Stick to baiting the special 1, as the SP2 will be unblockable. Archangel has Caustic Temper, which means you need to bring someone that can handle poison and that can access a Fury buff. Top options include Hyperion, Captain Marvel movie, Ghost, Medusa, Warlock with the Ultron synergy, Kamala Khan, or a poison handling champ with the Fury buff from the Heimdall synergy with Hela or Angela. Punisher is a fairly simple fight, and good Bane transfers will mean this guy will go down without much trouble. Remember to keep hitting him regularly, otherwise he'll build up attack through Aggression Fury. which can lead to lots of potential block damage from his special attacks. This is a very straightforward bishop fight. Just be aware that you'll be petrified for 1 second every time you fill a bar of power. Other than that, the only thing you need to be mindful of is the global. Another very simple fight. Ghost gains 50% attack for each buff on her, and she'll also build passive cruelties if you don't hit her regularly. As long as you don't get hit, you'll get through this fight unscathed. Congratulations, you've beaten Path D. Now for Path E, which can also be found in the bottom right hand corner of the map, starting at Elektra and ending with Ronan. We already covered the Elektra fight during Path C, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. Void inflicts Fear of the Void at the start of the fight against Avengers, so use anyone that isn't an Avenger and you'll get through this guy just fine. Bait the special 1, as the special 2 is unblockable, and stay on top of your purification of Void's debuffs. At the start of the fight, Killmonger inflicts a Power Lock, Heal Block, and Fate Seal debuff for 15 seconds, so be careful using champs that start the fight with buffs active. Unless he's armor broken, Killmonger has a 70% chance to purify debuffs and regenerate 4% health. So to make life easier here, use someone that can inflict armor break, or someone like Omega Red who can reduce his chance to purify debuffs. Daredevil will purify all non-damaging debuffs, but unlike Killmonger, he won't regenerate when he does. The Limber node is pretty irrelevant here, unless you're using an anti-tenacity champ. Don't be afraid to block his special if you need to avoid no retreat. Thor Jane Foster has the Resistor node, which will provide her with lots of physical or energy resistance buffs, depending on which attacks are used against her. Anyone works for this fight, and you can bait either special attack. Nullify champs are ideal to limit the amount of resistance she gets. Ronan has full stun immunity, so you'll need to find your openings by baiting his heavy attack, which can safely be avoided with one dash back, or by intercepting him. Either special attack can be baited, and even though he has enhanced special 1, the final hit is a projectile, so it can be safely blocked. Congratulations, you've beaten Path E. Now for Path F, which can be found in the bottom left hand corner of the map, starting at Joe Fixit and ending with Domino. Joe Fixit has True Strike, meaning any champ in the game other than Quake works here. He also has a chance to double down on his role at the start of the fight for a permanent regen, but the regen potency is fairly insignificant. Try to bait the special 2 as much as possible to avoid chip damage from the special 1. Just like Green Goblin from Path B, Rocket starts the fight with 2 bars of power, so be ready to bait a special 2 when the fight begins. The first hit is unblockable, and it's better to trigger no retreat to avoid the special 2, rather than mess up and take the special 2 in the face. Once he throws that initial special 2, stick to baiting special 1s. You'll want to use a fairly hard-hitting champ for Red Hulk, since he has the Vigor node which will regen some of his lost health unless he reaches an interval of 25% health. Stick to baiting his special 1, and either block the first or the second part of it to avoid no retreat. If you're far away when he throws it, you can completely avoid it. Sim Supreme has all or nothing, which seems scary at first, but as long as you don't trigger any buffs, he'll be gaining power at a very slow rate. Champions that can slow this power rate are ideal, either from Petrifies, Exhaustions, Power Lock debuffs, or Power Steal. This abomination is a very simple fight. As long as you bring someone who can handle his poison debuffs, he'll go down very easily. Bait special 1s, since you'll need to block some of the special 2 in order to avoid no retreat. Domino can be a bit of a pain if you don't bring a good domino counter. Stick to 4 hit combos in this fight, so you can dash back early and parry her medium attack. If you use 5 hit combos, she's very likely to retaliate with a light attack. That can't be parried. A tech champion is ideal to avoid going unlucky, and try to avoid using special attacks, since you'll gain a bar of power every time you throw one. Congratulations, you've beaten Path F. Now for Path G, which can also be found in the bottom left hand corner of the map, starting at Joe Fixit and ending with Winter Soldier. We already covered the Joe Fixit fight in Path F, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. I'd recommend simply bringing your best Mordo counter for this fight, as he doesn't have anything really special about him. Be careful when baiting his special 1, because if you block it while you have a buff active, you will receive a degeneration debuff. This Hawkeye can only take damage from bleed in this fight, so simply bring your strongest bleeder for him. When baiting the special 1, try to block the first part and dex out of the second hit, or vice versa. Having the Deep Wounds Mastery active will make this fight even easier. This Hulk is a very straightforward fight. Make sure to keep hitting him regularly enough to prevent his attack building up through Aggression Fury. Also, pay attention to when Hulk gets to 15% health, because if you're near him, you'll either start regenerating or degenerating. Silver Warrior has Arc Overload, which gives him 25% armor and 25% health every 20 seconds. So I'd recommend using someone who can prevent the healing through a heal block or nullify, or simply use someone that can outdamage the regen. Be careful how much you block, as each blocked attack will reduce your block proficiency by 6%. Once you have 10 red bubble shield icons, his next attack will be unblockable. Stick to baiting the special 1 for this fight. Winter Soldier has a 20% limber, so if you run out of parries, bait heavies through your block for your openings. Be careful of Masochism and use the reparry technique to get around it. Bait his special 1, blocking parts of it to avoid no retreat. Congratulations, you've beaten Path G. Now for Path H, which can be found in the top left-hand corner of the map, starting with Moon Knight and ending with Taskmaster. Moon Knight has a 50% chance to evade your hits, so bring someone who can handle his evade, whether that's using someone who can completely shut down his evade, or by simply hitting him while he's stunned. I'd recommend maxing out the parry mastery as well as the stupefy mastery for this fight at least. When baiting the special one, you'll need to block some of it in order to prevent no retreat. This cable can be slightly tricky since each blocked hit will give him 10% of his max power. I'd recommend bringing a strong power control champion for this fight, but if you can't, simply stick to baiting his special 2 while also avoiding no retreat. Cyclops will also generate power when he hits your block. However, since he has no other source of power gain, it's much easier to manage. Watch out for his special 1 since it is unblockable. Instead, try to push for his special 2, dexing the final hit of that. Redoubled determination means you don't want to use debuff heavy champions here, as that will give Deadpool lots of additional power and attack. Stick to baiting the special 1 as his special 2 is unblockable, and be careful when he triggers his passive power gain at 30% health. This Magneto can be a bit of a pain if you're not a master of the reparry technique, since he has masochism. Try to avoid using special attacks as each one will give him a bar of power. I'd recommend using someone that can benefit from his energy attacks if you can, such as Havoc or Human Torch. Remember to not use a champ with the hashtag metal tag, except for Archangel. Taskmaster is by far the most difficult fight on this path, as he has a chance to evade whatever his exploit weakness target is. When baiting his heavy attack, punish the first hit instead of dashing back multiple times and triggering no retreat. I'd also recommend using 5-hit combos ending in the light attack, so that when his exploit weakness target becomes a light attack, you can stick to double mediums, while the exploit weakness target is active. Congratulations, you've beaten Path H. Now for Path I, which can also be found in the top left-hand corner of the map, starting at Moon Knight and ending with Sentry. We already covered the Moon Knight fight during Path H, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. Guillotine is a very simple fight. You can bait either special attack very safely, and as long as you don't get hit, you'll sail through easily. Psylocke has double power gain, so a strong power control champion here is ideal, but it isn't necessary. You can bait either special attack, but for both you'll need to block parts of it. Mephisto activates his aura at the start of the fight and every 30 seconds, so I'd recommend bringing someone that's Incinerate immune for an easier time here. Don't bring a champ that relies on buffs since he has Spite. That'll give him additional passive power gain on top of his aura. You'll want to use a fairly hard-hitting champ for Rhino, since he has the Vigor node, which will regen some of his lost health unless he reaches an interval of 25% health. Stick to baiting his special 1, and watch out for his unblockable dash attacks, which happen less often against extra large champs. You'll need to bring some sort of power control champion for this Sentry, since he has all or nothing. As long as you bring a good counter to all or nothing, this fight is very straightforward. Congratulations, you've beaten Path I.
Now for Path J, which can also be found in the top left hand corner of the map, starting at Moon Knight and ending with a Mega Red. We already covered the Moon Knight fight during Path H, so refer back to that timestamp for this fight. Howard the Duck is a very tricky fight, because every time he throws a special attack, he goes passively unstoppable for 6 seconds, and the only way to turn it off is by intercepting him. After 50 seconds he goes unblockable, making the fight even more difficult. I'd recommend using a champ with access to slow, or someone with strong power control to prevent him from throwing special attacks. Luke Cage has encroaching stun, meaning you have to throw a special attack every 20 seconds to avoid being stunned and therefore getting hit. Be careful when baiting in special attacks, because if you're not, you can very easily trigger no retreat while avoiding them. This fight can be tricky without a good cord counter. Try to avoid giving him crowd excitement, because if he gets more than one, his special 1 will be unblockable, and you want to block part of it to avoid no retreat. Baiting the special 2 is much better, since you can avoid both parts without triggering no retreat. Don't enter this fight below 50% health, as Aspect of Nightmares will kill you before you can regenerate it back. Once you regenerate the lost health back, this fight is extremely simple. And I'd recommend baiting the special 1, as the special 2 is tricky to dodge without triggering no retreat. Omega Red has cornered, meaning chance of damage over time debuffs are not an option here. He has aggression regeneration, so you need to hit him regularly too. However, to prevent spore build-up, I'd recommend using someone who can do lots of damage from far away, or a robot, since robots significantly slow down spore build-up. Congratulations, you've beaten Path J. Now let's talk about the final boss in this quest, which is Sabretooth. He has 4 nodes on top of the global node. Decimation grants him a fury buff against mutant champions. Oscillate lets him alternate between a massive fury passive as well as an armor passive. Optimist gives him additional stat boost below 25% health, and Indomitable prevents us from reversing his regeneration.
Champions with access to passive heal block or heal block debuffs work great for this fight, since Sabretooth's regen can slow down many champs. Warlock, Archangel and Mysterio all have access to passive heal blocks. Champions like Doc Ock, Sentinel, Iron Man Infinity War, Vision and Red Skull all have access to reliable heal block debuffs. When baiting Sabretooth's Special 1, be prepared not to dex all of it, since that will trigger no retreat. Try not to push into his Special 2, as that is a lot more block damage. Another option is to use champs with access to lots of debuffs. When combined with the Despair Mastery, each debuff can reduce regeneration by up to 15%. And you can tell when the debuffs have fully mitigated Sabretooth's healing from this red icon. Another option is to use champions with very strong damage over time effects, as these effects are able to bypass Sabretooth's regen. Having the Despair Mastery also helps with these champs in mitigating Sabretooth's regen. Poison debuffs are even more effective, since each poison debuff reduces the potency of regen by 30%. Those were the top options, but you can also just simply brute force it with pretty much any champion you want. The harder the hitter, the better. Remember, if you have any questions about anything discussed in this video, please leave a comment or join my Discord to talk to me directly. I hope this guide helped make your journey through this quest easier, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we will dive into Act 6, Chapter 1, Quest 2. I'll see you then.